Namaste and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sathology Debunking Mythology. Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Sathology means a science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology. Myth means a study of myth. The Sanskrit word means fake lie imaginations. Mythology means a study or science of fake lie imagination. So I think this is only one question to ask if anyone tells you any history. Is it Sathology or mythology? If it is mythology, then you must question the Western academic version of history, because that's most of it is mythology, because it's based on personal views, and hardly 5% truth is there, that is material truth, where they're forced to admit that they are wrong. Other than that, everything is a commentary. Most of it is commentary. If you read Ziegler's book in your 10th grade, oh, you must know that most of it he has written is utter gibberish and garbage. And unfortunately, most American kids read that book. And Indian authors also quote that work of Ziegler, which is a utter nonsense. I have proved it in many of my books, and my last book, Gold, Glory, and God. I have very good author and has become a good friend, at least a Zoom friend, and he writes wonderfully, and he has published a book, and he has a good grasp over Vedic scriptures. So let us welcome Sri Chanchal Malviya.
Namaste, Aditya, and
Namaste.
namaste to all of your audience.
So when we talk about education, this is a comes from educare, and to teach, and primarily it was only meant to teach Christian education, nothing else. Church cannot take their head out of the one book syndrome. So how do you think the education word differs from Vidya?
Good question to start this discussion. Primarily, when I used to discuss the cultural differences between the West and our Bharat, these use of terminologies are the key factors which creates this difference. So, why education alone? I would say the two words school and Gurukul itself are two different words. If you say Gurukul, the word itself will create a different environment in the field of Shiksha, Vidya, or education that we want to, that you asked, in fact. So, Gurukul is what we are trying to pursue. Gurukul is what we are trying to resurrect. And let me tell a very simple description of Gurukul, because it's a very wide terminology. Guru means weight, and from that perspective, Gurutva means a person, weight means the that feature of object which has an aura or which can attract other objects. The field of that particular object, that is called Gurutva. But not going into those aspects, Gurukul in a very simple terms means there is a person who is the center of attraction of the society because of his knowledge and skill, and who is leading in the field of education independently on his own, who comes traditionally, maybe he may be coming from some parampara or so, but in his field he is standalone leading in a way of teaching and all. So students who join him to learn becomes of his kul. That is a Gurukul. Gurukul is giving a different kul or the second kul to the life of a student. That is Gurukul. I don't know from where this school came, but the term is very similar to Gurukul. The school also has kul in it. So if I go deep into it, may sound like Yusukul. So there has to be a counter on the other side. This may be just a logic. It may not have any historicity of the term school, and this may be just coincidence in terms of trying to reason out certain logical. But what I want to point is Gurukul is going to create a different environment, different education, impact, and a different generation altogether than what we are seeing in coming out from schools. Coming to the word education, you are right. I have tried to ask many educationists, many owners of schools, principals of schools who are PhDs in education, and I have tried to ask them, can you define education? And they all struggle to do that because the word is not clear. But the moment I say, those who know Hindi or Sanskrit, if I ask them, can you define Vidya or Shiksha? And they are very clear. Vidya dadadi vinayam, sa vidyaya vimuktaye. These sayings around Vidya itself brings a lot of clarity in the mind of people, and whoever is in the field of education, they know these sayings. That is not on the part of education. Until Swami Vivekananda came and told education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. How many educationists understood this sentence of Swami Vivekananda? I don't know. But he tried to define education from Bharatiya perspective, a new definition of education, which the Western world were unaware of. So the word, if we use the word school, if we use the word education, we may not actually realize the real essence of Gurukul, Shiksha and Vidya that was, in the culture, in the blood of Bharat, in the Sanskriti of Bharat. Yes, Aditya.
One of the things you pointed on the Guru and Gurukul. And now the word Gurukul has negative connotations based on the church's history of welfare of children. And somehow people connect that it's backward. And that's the propaganda of the media. And, all of us have gone through Gurukul, most of us, I have gone through it. And we know that the Gurukul education builds up your intelligence and your mind strength, mental strength. Whereas the modern education creates an employee. It doesn't create a leader because it is designed to create exceptions are there, exceptions. But majority of the people who have succeeded in business have rejected the school education and then worked on it. And their skills have come from their self-endeavors generally, or genetics. Father was a businessman, so child becomes a bigger businessman, followed the father. And that was the ancient parampara also, that everybody would get into the profession of the father. And that's how the paramparas grew. But the school system destroyed that. So what is the importance of Kula parampara versus the school parampara? How do you differentiate?
No, Aditya, school is not a parampara. Kul parampara. There are two. I would say there are two type of kul now. Now we should, I think, compare Gurukul and school. And if I would like to share the screen so that I can bring certain clarity on this. Okay. School is a system. I'm sorry, just hold on. Sorry. Yeah, school is a system. And kul, or you say parampara, is a tradition. These two are two different aspects, in fact. When you say kul, it means you are trying to chase an already proven and already tested, time-tested aspects of life and work. If you follow a particular kul, there is a guarantee that you will not struggle in life. You will not face most of the problems that we are facing today, and you will have financial as well as social security. That is the idea of a kul. And on top of it, to make sure there is no differences in society, there is no what we call equality or inequality. We'll come to that later. But there is no issue of dignity, or there is no issue of upper and lower kind of attitude. This second aspect of kul comes, that is Gurukul. Gurukul means you are adding to the kul of the child, the parental kul of the child, you are adding the guru's kul to his life. And that is where the 5 sanskars, I had talked about this in my previous session. The 5 sanskars of Gurukula is very important to be understood and re-implemented in today's system in probably a different pedagogical framework, which we are trying to do in fact. And those five sanskars are Vidyaram, and then Upnayan, and followed by Vedaram, Keshant, and Samavartan. So this Upnayan sanskar is very important in changing the kul of a particular child, because it is Guru who decides what would be the career, what would be the skill for which the particular child is made. It is a kind of Varna sanskar that is being decided by the Guru. A very important part of. So that makes a Gurukul. From there a child becomes the kul of the Guru. He becomes the part of the kul of the Guru from this particular sanskar. So these sanskars are very, very important, which are not in Gurukul, because Gurukul doesn't exist from this perspective, and hence it has become a part of only parental kul. And probably because of that, these Western ideas are trying to take advantage, and they are trying to malign or defame our idea of kul or these kind of sanskars, in fact. But in school, what happens? There is no Guru, there is no central person. The only central power, that is Jesus. That is your school, that is your Yusu. There is no central person whom the child can follow. If he is going to an English medium school, in that context I told, if he is going to a convent school, then there is a father. We have a very clear distinction between Pita and Guru. These are two different words. There cannot be a father at home and father at school in our culture. It is very clear in our culture that Pita is a different person and Guru is a different person. Guru may be greater than father, no issue, but he is Guru. The word itself differentiates between these two persons. But there we call our own biological father a father, and then there is another father sitting over there. This creates, this devalues the very perspective of a father. So the school, the culture of this convent culture of school, it starts by attacking the very idea of you being a Bharatiya. It is a different story that in India, most of our schools have not followed that traditions, and hence we, particularly few decades ago, we have persons like Aditya who are not, convent output, or it doesn't seem to be a convent culture person, because in India people still follow traditions and culture at home, irrespective of what is going on in school, and it has probably protected many of our things till now. But that is somehow we have been able to do. School has not done any justice to that. So what we will do is quickly try to understand few aspects of a Gurukul and a school, try to understand the differences between two. We will look into 3 aspects. One is the learning process, another is teaching pedagogy, and third is assessment methods. That is there in schools today, and that used to be there in Gurukul. So those people who say Gurukul is something which takes us back into the Stone Age, let them understand what is education, or what is Shiksha or Vidya, and what they have given to in terms of modernity or advancement in the name of school. Learning process, there is the primary central theme of learning process is learning outcome. Go to any board in this world, or be it any lesson, any book, any textbook. The central theme is learning outcome, and the practical theme is rote learning, particularly in India. And what is rote learning? We'll come to this learning outcome in detail. What is rote learning? Rote learning, most of the people think that children, they memorize, and they probably they have, because they do it because they have to face a particular exam very soon, and they memorize, they write the exam and then forget it. And they want this rote learning to be taken away of, and they want children to understand and learn. They understand and then memorize. This is what they are looking out in terms of content development or content, changing the content so that it is more children and making it more children friendly. That is why you call it a student centric system, because you want to make the content, want to make the system which is more student or children's age perspective is taken care of, and all those things. But let me say why rote learning happens. It is not the fault of children. Children memorizing a particular text which they do not understand is the strength of the child, and we must utilize it. We should not reject it. If they are not understanding and still able to memorize it, it is the strength, their strength that they are expressing. So whether it was Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, we didn't understand, we memorized it. And what we memorized, we still remember till today. So that was the power of memorization in those early age. And it is very late we understood that Humpty Dumpty was an egg. And when we understood, we now understand that that piece of knowledge that we still remember is useless. So rote learning is not the idea of, not about memorization. Rote learning is about memorizing a garbage content, which is absolutely useless. Secondly, rote learning is an output of your system. The way you have designed examinations, the way you have presented the content, and the way you are delivering the content to the children, the child is bound to do this rote learning. So instead of changing your system, you are trying to talk on rote learning. All this is not going to work out. So how will you change this? We will have to look into the idea of what you have designed as learning outcome. If you look into the academics of primary or even secondary content, that learning outcome is nothing but how much language you have learned, how much content you have memorized, not understood, memorized in terms of the content that has already been presented in the textbook, and how much you go with it. So your skill is only about academics. Your skill is only about whether you understand a language or not. Your skill is only about whether you have memorized what has been written in the textbook or not. And that is what your learning outcome is. But you may be writing a lot of things, but those are also text. Your social aspect should improve, your communication should improve, your this should improve. All those learning outcomes are also a text. The way you are assessing those learning outcomes that you have mentioned are never tested. It is so because learning outcomes that you have designed are micro outcomes. You do not have a macro plan. What I say, what we are trying to design is, you have to come to a term first, that what should be the net learning outcome. When a child comes out of a primary school or a secondary school, what is the net learning outcome you are looking for? And when you are sure that what net learning outcome you are looking for, you will further bifurcate learning outcomes into two parts. One is common learning outcome, which you want every student to learn. And there are specific learning outcomes which each student will learn in their own way. They will take their own path of learning. So learning outcome is not that simple thing that you simply write learning outcome and the whole system is designed around it. Now I will give you an example. Let's say there is a text in the textbook. The grass is green. I'm just trying to take an example. The grass is green. Now there is a student who will think the grass is green because of its content. There are certain vitamins, minerals, and there are certain contents which make it green. There is another student who will think the grass is green because it comes from plant kingdom. like other leaves, it is also green. There will be another student which will who will think that what how does that matter, the grass is green, finally it has to be grazed by the cow, by the cattle. There will be yet another student who will think, okay, the grass is green and Maharana Pratap was in jungle, he didn't eat non-vegetarian diet over there, didn't kill animals, he made bread of grass, so grass is also useful for our diet, and there is a possibility that if we don't get bread, uh, uh, you know wheat from the market, we can take an option of grass also to make a bread. So these four children thinking about grass is green have completely different ideas. They have a different learning outcome, which I call specific learning outcome. How will you measure this different thinking in children through this system? You cannot, because you want children to think only what is written in the text. So in that way, you have to write those things in the text which the child should actually memorize. Memorization is important. That is what Gurukul used to do. What Gurukul used to do, you have to memorize definitely, because that is your strength, that is your age when you should do, and you will be doing that in the best in the rest of the life. This is the time when you will be, this memorizing aspect will be best in your life. So what you have to memorize, you have to memorize shloks, you have to memorize certain aspects of wisdom, you have to memorize certain mathematical formulas or maybe tables. Why? Because these content, whenever you understand and whenever you apply in life, these contents are not garbage. And it may be difficult for you to memorize later, because once you understand, you may not go for memorization. We see this when we get this tendency of trying to understand certain things, we don't like memorization, so it will not happen in later stage of life. So it's very easy to make it happen now. But how will this happen? Learning process in Gurukul is not about texts or textbooks. It is not about this timetable and delivery mechanism. It is about inspiring and motivating the child to the extent that the child thinks the guru is as important as my father, or probably more important than my father. I should live with Guru. I should do whatever he say. So Shraddha, the Shraddhavana labhte jnanam. The Gita lays, our Shastra lays down the foundations of learning. Learning cannot happen if there is no Shraddha. If I don't like anything, how learning is going to happen? It's not going to happen. So what is fundamental to learning is likeness, Shraddha. How in the schooling system do we generate this Shraddha? There is no mechanism to do this. You have rejected the idea of Shraddha, of Gurukul. And if you want to really be a very good learner, the Shraddha, the higher aspect of Shraddha, Upasana comes. Acharya Upasana, in the aspects of knowledge in 13th chapter of Gita, Sri Krishna has laid down the foundations of knowledge. As Acharya Upasana, you have to do Upasana of Acharya. Tatvidhi, Pranipaten, Pariprashnan, Sevaya. What is Upasana? These three terminologies. You have to ask questions. You have to do Seva of the Guru. Whatever he says, how much you can serve the Guru. These aspects helps a child to derive all the knowledge from the Guru. Whatever is there in that central person. That is how a child is created. A teacher-centric system is required. If you are making a student-centric system, which is a school, all your facilitations are working to make the child happy and comfortable. And let us come to a point that learning doesn't happen in comfort. Learning is always a process of struggle. Good health is a process or is an output of hard work. A good mind is going to be a process of hard work or deep thinking, meditation, contemplation. These has to be the culture or the environment for learning. But that was Gurukul, and that is ancient Stone Age system. That cannot happen in school. So school, what will happen? It will have a timetable, a delivery mechanism, a fixed content. There is no verification of content. What has been written, it is full and final. So Taj Mahal was built by Shah Jahan, full and final. Nobody is going to question who said how he built, whether he built or not. There is no question. If the student says, I want to know actually how he built it, where it is written, the student will fail. So there is a fixed content which has to be delivered, and it has to go throughout the year. This is what is the teaching pedagogy in schools. But teaching pedagogy in Gurukuls was not this. It was involvement in work. It was not full day teaching classroom. Today's school doesn't know anything else than classroom teaching. There is no idea of teaching beyond this. It's only classroom, classroom, classroom. There is a board, there is a textbook, there is a person standing, and this person is now replaced by e-learning machines. That's all what they know about teaching. That was not in Gurukul. It was involvement in work. Teaching at most was for 3 hours, early in the morning, when the mind is fresh. That's all. Rest of the day, student is free, teacher is free. They have to work. They have to look out for work. And all that learning happens from work, practical learning. So that was the culture in Gurukul of learning. And third aspect will come is assessment. And again, here the school doesn't have any other process than written examination. So in our days, it used to be in 6 months. Now it happens every month, probably every week. But what they know is you write what we have taught you. If you're not able to write, you fail. And how would you, the system is either we give you marks or we grade the marks. If a child challenges a particular aspect in the textbook, he will get negative marks. And since rote learning is ingrained in this system, since your timetable doesn't allow each child to absorb the knowledge, there is no knowledge in this content anyway to motivate the child to absorb it. But anyway, what you say, it is knowledge. If you don't allow the time to absorb this knowledge, obviously the output, the lookout by the child to pass the exam will be cheating. Cheating is not what the child is eager to do or what his nature is. It is your system which is forcing these children to cheat in the exams. Your very process has ingrained it. That was not in Gurukul. In Gurukul, it always used to be the test of knowledge. There was no time-bound aspect of learning that you have to learn within this, year, or you fail. There will be another book next year for you. So if you are not able to learn in 1 year, you take another year. There is no man-to-man competition over there. Every person, every individual, every child used to take their own journey in Gurukul. They were able to take that because it was about following the kul of a guru. It was not about following a system to attain certain report cards, where nobody is, in standard 10, you get a report card, or you give board exam and you get the marks and grade by people whom you don't know. The person on the other side doesn't know you doesn't know them, and you get a report card. See, this is what you are in education. This is what you have learned. It was not in Gurukul. The guru knew what the student knows, and the student knew where they stand. And before they actually faced real examination, where external gurus also used to come and test face to face, the child or the student used to be ready to take the exam. And the guru was confident, yes, he is ready to take the exam now. And then he used to allow. So it was a test of knowledge in Gurukul. It was not the test of textbooks. So this whole system, if you analyze, it doesn't stand anywhere near Gurukul. Gurukul was a pure learning culture. You see, the idea of brahmacharya. I think Aditya will come to the topic of to these topics very soon, but let me put it here so that he can trigger this question. The idea of today, we see this issue of disrespect towards women. It was not there earlier. Let me claim it. 30 years ago, when I used to go to my own village, I would say, I would take pride in saying that there was no case of women abuse, and women, even if they they used to take bath in open in rivers, there was no villager who used to put an eye on them, because they were trained in this age where these thoughts becomes or they pollute the mind. They were trained on brahmacharya. They're trained in Gurukul like that. There was there is a Keshant Sanskar in Gurukul to ensure that this brahmacharya, the idea of brahmacharya is empowered in the child, in the student at the age of 16. When these thoughts in schools pollutes the mind of children. But what have you done to brahmacharya? You have made a joke out of it. If somebody says something about brahmacharya, he will be laughed upon. You made a comedy out of it in school. And what is the output? You know what is the output. So I mean, there is a big difference. I will not take much time on this because Aditya would like to turn the question towards something else. But quickly, I would like to come to the next slide and say, one of the fundamental thing that everyone talks about is constitutional values. They think that most of the educationists, that instead of dharma, instead of culture, instead of Bharatiyata or Hinduism, to be specific, or Vedic, to be more specific, we have to follow constitutional values, not that. But if you look at the constitutional framework of values, let me put it very straightforward. These values are for political parties. These are not for educational institutions. I would like to point over here, no constitution should sit on top of education. It is education which should define the constitution. Education should not be put or should not be entrapped within any framework. That used to be Gurukul. It was not bound by anyone, Gurukul. But schools, forget constitution. Schools are completely enslaved institution. It's a jail. It's a jail. Teachers are they are probably reporting to the management or the school owner, who are their masters. And school masters, there are ministries, not even ministries, bureaucrats, officers who are their masters, and bureaucrats, ministers, they are masters, and the constitution is ministers' masters. This is the chronology of how education, your schools are running. That was never the culture of Gurukuls. Gurukul, in whatever shape they are today, even today they are independent. So if you look at the constitutional values, if I say, I will randomly pick because there are a lot of them. Let's say socialism. Now the socialism, their idea is that inequality should not be there. But have you defined the society in the constitution? What do you mean by a society? If a society is not defined, how will you define socialism? And if you have defined society, is there any practical example of such society sustaining or existing? The society is still in our traditional way. They are existing. And they are sustaining if they are following the traditions. On top of it, you will write secularism. Equality in the constitution, according to me, doesn't carry any meaning, because you have, in the constitution itself, You are talking about minority and reservations. That is not the idea of equality. And then you come to secularism. How will you, maintain the identity of a person or dignity of a person on the idea of secularism? This is different topic, so I would not like to waste a lot time on secularism. But secularism will exist where all the religions are respecting other religions also. Only then it is practically exist. It will exist. When there are religions who are hating your Hindu identity, they are forcing conversions by any means. No, where is the idea of secularism? So these are fake terms. These are fake values. We cannot follow them. If we follow, we will be finished. Instead, the constitutional fundamental duties, which are not obligations on people. The obligations are these rights, in fact, not the duties. It is the fundamental duties which are more important in the constitution. I'm not going against the constitution because they are the laws, they are ruling this country now. But my point is, when they are putting certain values in the constitution, they should ensure that the purity of those values are clearly laid down. They should not dilute each other. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Constitution gives us this liberty. Why? If the constitution will not give us liberty, we'll stop thinking, we'll stop expressing, we'll stop believing. It's not going to happen. My thought is my own thought. Constitution cannot read it. Constitution cannot direct it. This liberty means that I have to think the constitutional way, which is not liberty then. I don't want to go into the details of each of these constitutional values, but what I want to point is education has to be free from these things. Of course, education itself will purify these constitutional values, and they have to consider these for discussion, for detailed study and all. And whatever is good has to be followed for generations, but they cannot rule us. Okay, Aditya, I will stop here and wait for your question.
So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for sharing this presentation. One essential question comes in, and you actually said it in one of the, when you were showing the presentation, you said about when you talked about the education, you talked about the colonial mindset, something like that you referred to. So how is the modern education accentuating the colonial mindset, which I also call them coconuts? Like they look like us, but they are feeling they're white from inside. Like the white in the sense, I'm not racist in any way. There are a lot of people who are color, I'm literally colorblind as far as skin color goes. But when you say the mindset, we're talking colonial mindset. So how does the modern education system accentuates the slavery of the ex-colonies?
I think, Aditya, I had told this in my previous this thing, but I will repeat again. There are two things which makes each and every individual coming out of schools colonized. One is the system, another is the language. So they make sure that you're not able to think. How will they ensure as a system that you are not able to think? Because they don't allow you to think. That's why I have attacked the idea of timetable and the delivery mechanism of content. Even if the content are all about, glorifying the invaders and abusing our own country, let it be. But they don't want to think even this, you to think even this. So they have made sure in a system that you don't think on these matters, and you don't follow any other value system. If you don't get as a student time to do research, time to study something else, time to look out for in search of truth or satyology. If you want to look out of satya, they don't allow this in the system. So there is a system which works in a very tight environment. They have created this system that no student will come out as a thinker out of it. The second is, exceptions will always be there. Exceptions are not counted for these things. Exceptions will work even if the school is not there. And the second is the language. If you read the letters of Macaulay, which he used to write to his sister and father and those things, I mean, Aditya must have read those letters. Macaulay says very confidently in his letter. I have quoted this in my book. I shared the cover page of the book that is upcoming, in fact. I have shared those letters in the book. And Macaulay says very, very clearly that our English school is giving flourishing results. The first is, any student who is coming out of English medium school is no more truly an Indian. The second, as he said, many of those students who are no more truly an Indian, many of those students are anti of their own culture. And some of those students who are anti of their culture are very Christian friendly. They are ready to be converted. So his idea of conversion was ingrained in education itself. Macaulay had thought of English education in India, that it is English education which is going to Christianize the people, mind of people. You say colonize, I say Christianize. I think they are nearly the same term used interchangeably. So Macaulay says this, which he observed in his own days, and he said it is high time we have to implement only English mediums. And there are people, Indians, who started working, helping them. You don't have to repeat their names, but it happened, and it's the whole of country is now English education. Now it comes to the other part, is how was he sure that it's going to happen? It's because language and culture, they are not two sides, two different coins. They are two different sides of same coin. Language and culture. And I had talked last time when we talked about culture in Satyology, we talked on this aspect. In fact, the moment you start using good morning, you have killed a namaste and pranam, which was your culture. The moment you start talking in English, we all are talking in English, but we are losing the many essence of our culture, the depth of our culture, which we could have easily talked had we talked in Hindi or in any language of our country. So this language, English, it carries its own meaning, which is all Christianized. English, I say, if children learn English early, start learning English early, they will lose their logical and reasoning capacity. It will not happen in England. It will not happen in English speaking country, because that is their native language. That is how they look at the world, in fact. But over here, our native language are very mathematically structured language, very scientifically structured language, native languages. So swar is alag, is different, vyanjan is different, and how swar and vyanjan works, how they are arranged, how all these vyanjans are arranged. These are all mathematics, pure logical. You will not read ka as something else in when it is put in a word. So if it is kamal, it is ka, ma, la, it is kamal. But if you say W, I don't know, there is a single word where you can use W. So, TH is the or tha, you don't know. It is used differently. CH is sha, ka, or cha. How it is used differently. So there is no logic that is going to work when you are learning English. You have to learn English simply as it is. You cannot apply logic to learn. But what happens, our people are used to logics in learning languages. So when they learn English, they apply logic, and that is why they fail. Because English is no logic, English is no science. English is a very weak language in terms, if we compare it to Sanskrit based languages. I had talked on this earlier also. But these two aspects which is missing in English medium schools, one is that their system that doesn't allow us to think, and that is language that shapes our mind the way they think. These two things, aspects of education, they colonize our mind very easily. The rest are the contents which fills the gap.
You gave some good example there. Invariably, we still speak on colonial terms, invariably, without knowing also, subconsciously. Yeah, subconsciously, we use words like, just a word we use, like, just skips my mind, but generally we use English terms like convent. Convent people do not know that the convent was designed to create, like what you said, a British Indian, an Anglo-Indian in mind, which you also referred correctly as Macaulay and Max Muller. The whole culture was to destroy the native culture, native. So all the future politics, if you see my last book, Gold, Glory, and God, will be played on native versus non-natives. Like, I define native as a person who was never converted to an outsider invader faith. Rest everyone is a non-native in mindset now. And the people who were given jobs were people who were literally in their mindset non-natives now. They're converted, even though they may have Hindu names or local names, but still they are different people now. And they look down upon their own family as backward. And the logic they use is, समय बदल गया है, हिंदी में बोलते हैं, समय बदल गया है, times have changed, you look for more modern. Now, how ridiculous is the modern concept, the word modern? What is modern, according to you?
See, whatever is killing our life is modern. Whatever is making us more and more uncomfortable is modern. Whether it is food, whether it is uniform or the dress, the way of we wear it, whether it is human to human behavior, whether it is religion of modern religions, whether it is the use of technology, the way it is applied. I feel बंदर के हाथ में अदरक दिया हुआ है. It is this technology. So whatever we call modern is not doing any good, not only to humans, but the whole ecosystem. And we must realize this very fast, in fact, if we want to, see, if we do not want to see the devastation of this world. Because the way technology has advanced and the way it has reached to the last people without helping them to become a man first, it's going to, destroy everything. They are not caring for anything. We have reached to a stage where the value for father and mother is also lost. Forget about other relationships. Such are people that we cannot imagine Indians, making milk out of chemicals and killing people and earning money, doing all these things for money. We cannot imagine, because this never had been the value system of India. India or Bharat were people who knew that their life is not for themselves, it is always for others. This life is, if it is for me, it's going to be finished anyway. So to make this life meaningful, I have to apply it for others, because it's going to finish. Apply it for others. Realize who I am. This was the idea of people. And people who thinks for others, they will not do these kind of, inhuman activities, which everyone is engaged today in doing. These are all outcome of modernity. These are not outcome of, Gurukul system. In fact, if you call of advancement, our golden era, when the world used to come to India to loot, to earn, to learn, for everything, when they used to say, the Western world used to say, the golden bird, those were the days of advancement. We had produced so much advanced methods and sciences and technologies in those time, but those technologies, those tools were given in the hands of responsible person. We have the idea of Anubandha Chatushtay in our education, in our Gurukul system. Let me come to this. Anubandha Chatushtay means, here is a piece of knowledge, here is a piece of skill, but why, what is the purpose of this? It has to be defined. There are 4 questions which has to be answered by a guru before delivering that knowledge to anybody. Piece of knowledge, 1. Second, the purpose of knowledge. How it is going to do good to the society, to nature, to people. And third, adhikari. Who is the person, whether he is supposed to take this knowledge or not. If it is not, he is not, that piece of knowledge is not supposed to be given to him. And fourth, collectively, all the sambandh, all these three aspects of knowledge, how are they going to impact the whole ecosystem? This was called Anubandha Chatushtay. We have taken this in our new design of education and all, but this is missing in your modern aspect. In fact, you have given nuclear power to terrorists also. What they will do to the world? They are all keen in killing people only. That is what they know from their idea of God. So modernity, I think, is something which is killing people. Advancement has to be understood and implemented, but on the idea of our Shastra, on the idea of our golden era, on the idea of Gurukul.
Thank you so much for touching on various all these topics. And one last thing on the education. The Western academic education is built on increasing the colonial or keeping the colonial hold. If you look at the USA, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, these are still the occupied territories, because if you look at, I have done a lot of research, I've done Gold, Glory, and God. Don't want to promote it. People hate self-promotion, so I'm not promoting it, but just referring it to my own book, where these countries have killed an entire native population. And Philippines is a very classical example where the Roman Catholic Church told Filipinos, in 100 years, either you convert or die or be kicked out of Philippines. And that's how the Philippines became from a Hindu country to a Christian country. You'll be very shocked to see a Filipino man having a Spanish name. It's shocking. And that's why it is still poor. Most of these colonized countries are still poor. There is a record of Aborigines in Australia that they inhabited every single square kilometer of Australia and New Zealand, Maori tribes of New Zealand. But they were mercilessly killed. Now, one is that I put a sword on a head and a gun on a head and say that either you convert or become like us, or you stay where you are and we finish you off. So they had a model of shrinking boundaries, expanding the frontiers. Very common word. India, they could not do it. The problem was the Indian warriors, they fought very hard, including Akbar was defeated by Maharana Pratap, very fairly known. You have also said it in some other shows. But in India, the only way to destroy was from within. All the evil philosophies have originated from France, all of them, including left and right. And currently, Americans are very shaken up by CRT because wokeism is shaking their Christian roots. Vatican is anti-Vatican movement. Now, in India, the same thing when it comes to India, it is worse. And it completely reverses its original objective. So while in America and the Western countries, the CRT is for removing the colonial mindset, in India is to accentuate the colonial mindset. And it is all done through these schools. And the Indian boards like CBSE, NCRT, and ICSE, or whatever boards we have, they continue this colonial propaganda. Whether it's a new education policy or old education policy, they'll always find a way to enter. What is the strategy that we should adopt as a native cultures of India to protect from this intrusions?
Aditya, you know, I'm facing this issue. I'm seeing this happening now also. Don't want to say this on public platform, but you are perfectly correct that they intrude, and they intrude with their own agenda, but they don't make it appear initially, and then they they colonize everything. It's happening now also, irrespective of the efforts taken by the new government, or the new National Education Policy 2020, which has many provisions of corrections, in fact, improvement, in fact. But there are intrusions. Let me accept that without going into details of it. What shall we do? I don't know. But I am trying to pursue one thing in this. Okay, the whole nation, what I feel that the whole nation is engaged in our country in reshaping the content of education. Of course, I am also attacking that, but in my own way. I'm not going into the details of content. I'm going into the design of content. What all other people are doing are they are going into the details of content. This should be there, this should not be there. The whole world of content has to be looked into, and this, and the language should be this and that. I'm not going to go too deep into those things. I'm going to the how should the content be designed so that we have the right mind framework coming out of it. That is one thing. Another thing which all have rejected, which I'm trying to focus, is the system. There is no board which has specialized department to improve the system of education. I don't know if it is there in other countries or not, but at least over here, it's not there. And I'm trying to pursue that we should have a system, we should have a department which should focus on the system, which should cross-check the idea of the system of education itself. There should be qualitative analysis of that only. So there should be a cross-check, internal cross-check, in fact, of the board itself. Are you implementing the right system or not? The system, and what is the output that you are trying to get out of it as a system, not as a content. So if we implement these two things, design of content, and another is system, which of course once it will start maturing, it will reach to the stage of a Gurukul system, because that's the end, what I feel, where a system can mature and reach. So there should be a maturity process in system. And these two things which I am trying to pursue, and as I told you earlier that we are trying to implement this Life Lab and Gurutva Lab, these two labs we are trying to implement to change the system, in fact. Rest, I'm not a political person actually to answer this thing. I'm trying to do certain things in my own capacity in the field of education only alone. I'm not that influential also, not so well connected also that I can influence somebody and make it happen. Whatever I can do and what in my capacity, I'm trying to do this, Aditya.
Thank you so much, Anchal. It's a pleasure to always have you on the show. You bring fresh perspectives and fresh content, and also you are working on the ground. That's I love the most, because just being on social media is not enough nowadays, and we have to step out. And social media is one aspect of it where we raise awareness, but on the ground work is needed much more, village to village, small town to small town, and then coming to the big towns. Big cities, and that's how we'll challenge, because the attack is on the villages, not on the cities, because cities are already done. They have a colonial mindset, and they're very well integrated with the global economy. Now, well integrated global economy, you understand what I'm trying to say in terms of colonial global economy.
Correct.
So thank you so much, Anchal, and thank you all the viewers for watching and live show. A lot of questions you had, and do comment on YouTube and share widely. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.